in?
Great. I can't see anything, so you're going to have to guide me through.
Yeah, absolutely. Will do. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for your patience today with a little bit of a delayed start. Excited to kick things off. Thrilled to have everyone here on this call. There are tons of you that are curious to hear from the master, Chip Close. As you all know, at Honeycomb, we're super passionate about empowering small businesses, providing access to capital, community support, and also expert guidance. So today we are thrilled to bring you insights from, in my opinion, one of industry's leading voices in restaurant profitability and strategy. So please welcome Chip Close. He is a seasoned restaurant coach, an author, the host of the acclaimed Restaurant Strategy podcast. He has 2 decades of experience. He's worked with Michelin-starred chefs, James Beard Award winners, helping tons of restaurateurs across the country to achieve consistent, predictable profit margins. So today, he's going to be walking us through some of his best tips and tricks on a path to profitability. I'm going to let Chip take it away here. As we're going through the presentation, feel free to put your questions in the chat, and then we're going to do our best at the end to get to all of your questions at the same time. So Chip, welcome to the stage. Excited to have you on board.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you having me aboard. You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Perfect. Great. So exactly as you said, I'm super passionate about restaurants making money, finding a path to profitability. It's never been harder to be profitable. We're going to talk a little bit about why. We're going to talk a little bit about how to combat that. What I hope today, yes, we're going to talk about tips and tricks and all of that. But I want to do 2 very important things: is change the way I want to change our relationship to profit. A business exists to generate profit. Profit is just the surplus, right? We're going to talk about what that is. I want to reframe how we think about it and how we go about it. Talk to you a little bit about how I do that with my clients. And then we'll talk about all the way at the end, sort of how you take action moving forward. So that over the next 40, 45 minutes, we're going to go a long way here all together. I will answer your questions at the end of that, and then make sure that we have very tactical, actionable advice, things you can put into practice right away when you leave this. So here it is, Path to Profitability. There's my name, Chip Close, restaurant coach. So fact number 1, we gotta lay down the playing field here, right? According to FSR magazine, 60% of all new restaurants close in their first year. We've heard that statistic before. Fact number 2, according to the National Restaurant Association, our industry employs more than 15 million people just in this country alone, right? We're going to come back to why that's important, right? Fact number 3, according to the, again, NRA, last year, the average independent restaurant made just 4% profit. That's down from the year before when it was 6% profit. So yeah, there are some that are killing it, doing 15, 20, 25%, and there are a whole lot that are breaking even and are losing money. 4% is insane. So a restaurant that makes $1 million out there, if they make 4%, that's $40,000. And I just don't think that's worth the juice. Isn't worth the squeeze. And I'm hoping that I've got friendly ears on the other side here, and you guys would agree with me, right? It has never been harder to make money here, right? Because of inflation, because of wage increases, right? This threat of recession, increase of cost of goods sold, right? It's never been harder to run a profitable restaurant. One of the phrases I hate is this phrase, razor thin profit margins. If it's so hard to make money, then just go do something else, right? I don't want any of us to be complaining about it, right? That being said, what I want to show you over the next little while is that you have agency, maybe more agency than you might have realized. You control more than I think you do. I work with tons of clients, tons of restaurants all over the world to help them get their hands around this. But the fact is, it's never been harder to run a profitable restaurant. Here's the other thing that I want us all to agree on, right? What you do is too important and too difficult to not make money doing it, right? So I talked about the 15 million people we employ, right? I want you to think about your restaurant as its own little economy, right? You have an entire economy around you. Your landlord gets paid. You've got people who are employed by you. You feed a lot of people. You generate sales tax revenue for your state. You prop up your community, right? Whether it's your shopping center, your block, whatever, you generate foot traffic because people park their car and have to walk to get to you. That helps the retail shops, the other stores that are all around you, the drugstore, all of that. There's an entire economy all around you. So many people benefit from your business. Again, your landlord, your vendors, your staff, right? Your servers, your bartenders, your cooks, all of these people, the state benefits from you. All of the other businesses around you, right? The parking garages near you, the valet, the parking meters, all of this. There really is this mini economy that's propped up around you. What you do is too important and too difficult to not make money doing it. Most of the people that I work with, right? And I'm assuming most of these people out there, most of you guys are independent operators, right? Most independent operators never miss payroll, always pay their rent, always pay their vendors, have good relationships. They're always the last person to get paid. And what I want you to do is sort of change your perspective so we take a profit first approach. So we think about what we need from the business instead of what the business needs from us. Business is really good at telling all of us what it needs. Oh, cook called in sick. We got to go in. We got to work the line. Oh, the hostess, no-showed. Okay, we got to run the front door. Oh, the server. The business is really good at telling us what we need to do, and you are really good at answering the call, right? And I think what we can be better about doing, and what I am really passionate about doing, is making sure that we are being very direct with the business to tell the business what we need from it. I'd be willing to do all the things that you're asking of me if you could give me the following thing in return. And I think what we want in return is money. I think we need profit, right? Here's why. What is on the other side of profit? So we're going to talk about profit, right? We're going to talk about what profit is, what profit is not. But what's really important right now, what I want all of you guys to do a little bit of a gut check, right? Close your eyes, and I need you to think of what is on the other side of profit, because profit is just money, right? So we generate a lot of revenue. We manage our expenses so that our expenses are less than the revenue, and that surplus, that what's left over, is profit. Profit means different things to everybody. I work with hundreds of clients, right? Hundreds of members of my mastermind program. We'll talk more about what that is, and because we're going to talk about a lot of the ideas and the systems that I teach to them, we're going to introduce here over the course of this presentation. But what I tell people, right, I tell all my members, it doesn't matter what you want. Profit is the key. So if you want to just sell your business, we have to make the business look as profitable as possible, because we evaluate the company. We determine an asking price, a sale price, based on EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Basically, operating profit. So the revenue that's generated from the operation minus the costs of the operation, that gives us operating profit, or EBITDA, or NOI, whatever you want to call it. It's the profit that the business generates, right? That's just money. If you want to sell your business, you got to make that number look as good as possible so you can get the best possible price when you sell your business. Totally fine. If that's what you want, profit is the way. Right? Maybe you want to franchise your business, right? Maybe you say, I got a great concept and there should be, 500 of them across the country. Great. What you need to do is make a very profitable operation, because you're going to ask for a 6% royalty and 1 or 2% marketing fee. So you're going to lob 7 or 8% right off the top of their profits, right? And so you need to be able to look at somebody in the face and say, well, I know how to get you to 11% profit. And then you're going to take 8% of it and leave them with 3%. Nobody's going to sign up for your franchise. That's why the very best franchises out there generate 24, 26, 28% operating profit. Because when you have a business that generates 25% and you take 7% off the top for royalty and marketing fee, that leaves you with like 18%. It's easy to look a potential franchisee in the face and say, I'm going to show you how to generate 25%. And then after all fees, you're going to make 18% from this business. From $1 million business, right? A restaurant that generates $1 million every single year, to make $180,000 off it, that's a pretty good living, at least in my book, right? So if you want to sell, you got to profit's the way. If you want to franchise, profit is the way. Let's say you just want to step away from the day-to-day. You want to go live on a beach somewhere. Fine. Generating more and more profit will allow you to reinvest those profits into your people so that you can bring in a director of operations or a general manager or an executive chef, somebody or a group of people to do so many of the tasks that you're currently doing. Whatever you want to do, profit is the key. Let's say you want to just expand. Hey, I want to open up another location, a third location. By generating more profit, you'll be able to have extra money that you can reinvest in a new location, in expanding this location. Whatever it is you want, whatever's on the other side of profit, only you can determine that. But right now, at the beginning of this conversation, it's really important to really think about this and say, what does this mean? For me, right, profit is stability. It's security. I went through plenty of years not making much money and not knowing where my next paycheck was going to come from and really living shift to shift, week to week. So for me, profit in my business, my small business, right? Because I don't own a restaurant, but I run a small business that helps restaurants. Profit in my business equals security. It equals a roof over my head, knowing where my next meal is going to come from, knowing that I can put away for my retirement, knowing that I can put away for my son's college fund, right? Whatever it is for you is okay. You don't have to justify or explain any of that, but you do have to define it for yourself. And listen, keep it as your secret. Keep it lodged in your gut. When you keep it there, it'll become visceral and it'll make everything else that comes after this so much easier because you'll know what you're working towards, right? Of course, the point is, how do we make it automatic? I talk about this a lot. I think a restaurant should generate 20% profit every single month. Consistent, predictable 20% profits. If you think that's crazy, I'm here to tell you that I work with hundreds of restaurants and we literally make it happen every single month. I was raised in this industry. I've been in this industry for 25 years. As I was coming up, I was taught that 10% was the land of fairies and unicorns. Man, we should be lucky at 10%, right? If we made 6, 7, 8%, we were doing pretty good. 10% was like, whoa, that was December. That was parties, right? And then I stepped out and I worked with bigger groups. I worked with more accomplished individuals. I worked with people who were much smarter than me. And I saw that no, 20% is absolutely possible. And in my opinion, I think what we do, as I said before, is too difficult and too important to not make money doing it. I think you deserve to make a good living. Average restaurant in this country is about $1.2 million a year. That's about $100,000 a month in revenue. I think you deserve 20% of that. That's $20,000 a month. I don't think that's too much to ask. Nobody got into this business to buy, Bugattis and yachts and all that. I think we work with pretty realistic people that are very reasonable and got into this because they love this, right? So earlier I said, if you're not going to make money doing it, then, if you're going to complain about the razor thin profit margins, then just go do something else because there are better, easier ways to make money. But I assume that you're all here, that you're all doing this, that you're still listening to me because you love this business like I love this business. You're insanely passionate about what you do. And so great. If you are going to do this because it's something you're very good at and very passionate about it, then let's figure out a way to make money because you deserve to be rewarded and to be not even rewarded, but stabilized, secure in what you do. Because again, you're paying your landlord's bills, you're paying your distributor's bills, you're paying, you're helping to provide a living for your cooks and your dishwashers and your servers and your porters and your bartenders and all of that, right? You're paying the state, you're paying all of this. There's this little mini ecosystem. So let's make sure we take care of you. What we're going to do is we're going to take care of you first. And it's not selfish. It's the oxygen mask analogy, right? Every time you get on a plane, I assume most of you guys have been on a plane. When you get on a plane, they give you the same speech. Put on your oxygen mask first before you help anyone else. Because if you're trying to get the person, the mask onto the person to your left, and you pass out because you don't get enough oxygen, well, now you die, the person to your left dies, the person to your right dies. You can't help anybody. But if you quickly put on yours, you are better to help the person to your left, right, in front of you, behind you. You can help more people. What we're doing is I'm trying to take the oxygen mask approach to your business. Profit first. Let's take care of you first. Everyone else is taken care of, and I think you guys are really good at taking care of other people. Let's get better at taking care of you. That's what this is about. So a couple of introductions, right? So you heard a little bit of my resume. I've been doing this for 25 years, mostly in New York City. Spent 20 years in New York City working in operations. I've got 13 Michelin stars on my resume. I've collaborated with 3 different James Beard Award winners. I even opened a Relais and Chateau property in upstate New York for Richard Gere. Yes, the actor Richard Gere. I went back to school. I have an MBA in food marketing and graduated top of my class from St. Joe's University. The Hobbs School of Business has a one-of-a-kind program. It's an MBA in food marketing. It's literally, I couldn't find anything else like it. It was perfect for me. So I've got all this operational experience. I've got the academic know-how to sort of back it up, but I'm not a numbers guy. I killed myself in business school to understand this stuff. And ultimately, I think that's who you want teaching you this stuff, because I compartmentalize it, I simplify it, I dumb it down. We're going to dumb it down so that it's an easy way to think about making money in our business. In addition to all of that, now what I do is I work as a restaurant coach. So I run something called the P3 Mastermind. It's a group coaching program for restaurant owners and operators. Mostly I work with independents who struggle with profitability, people who have a good business, they make good food, they take care of people, they've been around for a while, but they're just not making what they deserve to make, that consistent, predictable 20% profit. I'm going to introduce you to some of the systems, frameworks, ideas over the course of this presentation. The P3 Mastermind is where we dig in 2 hours every single week to help you implement them into your business and with your team. So if you want to find more about that, I'll share a link at the very end where we can have a conversation about that. That's mostly what I do. Currently, I've grown this group. There are 150, give or take about 150 members spread across 4 different groups. And again, we meet for 2 hours every single week. It's an incredible community. Everybody's there, knows what they're doing. They're just struggling with profitability, and we show them how to make more money from their business. That's how passionate I am about this. I literally started the business to be able to help people to do this. So what is profit? Here's the equation for profit. Revenue minus expenses. All the money we take in and then all the money that goes out, that equals profit. I told you I was going to dumb it down. It's pretty stupid, pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but we have to talk about it, right? Revenue minus expenses equal profit. Profit is that surplus, the extra that's left over. That's what we're going after, right? And the worst way we can do it, right, is how I think most restaurants do it. Say, okay, I'm going to try to make as much money as I can, and I'm going to try to cut as many of my expenses as possible, and hopefully there's a lot left over at the end of the month. And that is the wrong way to approach it. More and more and more and more and more, and then less and less and less and less, and then hopefully there's something left over for me. Let me get my P&L that my CPA got me, and let me see if I made any money. It's the wrong way to do it. And what I want to do is I want to show you the right way to do it. I want to show you how to think about this blue word first by asking your business what you need from it, right? This is what I need from you. I would be willing to do all the crazy things you're asking me to do as long as I could get this out of it. This is what would make it worth it. Revenue minus expenses equal profit. These are my 3 moving targets, right? If this is a video, you'd see these targets moving. What makes our business so difficult, and I went back to business school to get the answer to this, right? I went back, got my MBA. And it was about halfway through my my first semester, and I ended up doing a project, case study with somebody who was from the Campbell's Soup Company. And so school was in Philadelphia. Campbell's Soup is based in Camden, right across the river. And so they've got a really great executive training program where they'll pay people to go get their MBA. It was amazing. I was very jealous. I paid for it myself. I wish I had a company that would have paid for it, but I didn't. And we were talking, me and this guy, and he asked me, he said, well, why did you go back to school? And I said, you know, people love restaurants. Restaurants are more popular now than they've ever been in the history of the United States, and yet it's never been harder to make money, and I don't understand why that is. So really, I came back to school to try to get an answer to that. And he goes, oh, that's easy. He literally was like so blasé about it. He's like, oh, it's easy. That's because you basically have 3 moving targets. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, think about it. Think about your business, right? You have 3 moving targets that at the Campbell's Soup Company, we don't have, right? And he said the 3 moving targets are revenue, COGS, and labor. He said, think about it. You don't know how many people are going to come in tonight to the restaurant, and you don't know what each of them are going to order or how much each of them are going to spend. You have an idea of check average or average guest spend. You have an idea, but you don't know if they're going to order chicken, salmon, lamb. You don't know. Because you don't know exactly what they're going to get, you don't know exactly how much to order, right? I think people are going to order lamb tonight, but I don't know. Maybe they'll all do salmon and I'll run out of salmon. I'll have to 86 it. He's like, because revenue is a moving target, then cost of goods becomes a moving target because you don't know how many people are going to come in or what they're going to order. So you're not exactly sure what to bring in. And because you don't know how many people are going to come in, you don't know how many people to schedule. So therefore, labor is a moving target, right? I think Friday's going to be busy, so I staff up. But if it rains and Friday's a dud, well, then I'm over budget on my labor and then I'm not profitable. What makes our industry so difficult are those three moving targets. And he was saying at the Campbell Soup Company, he's like, we have other issues, but those aren't our issues. For example, they have salesmen who go sell soup to supermarkets, let's say, and they sell them months in advance. So by the time they go into a given period when they need to make the soups, they already have all the orders. They've already probably been paid. He's like, so revenue is not a problem. It's not a moving target for us. We know exactly what it is. And we know exactly how many cans of each soup have been ordered. So we can order exactly the number of cans we need and exactly the ingredients we need to make that amount of soup. And then therefore we know how many cans come off the line in a given hour. So we know how long we have to run the line and how many people it's going to take to run that line every hour. So revenue, COGS, and labor for the Campbell Soup Company is not a moving target. And for us in the restaurant industry, it is. And my mind was like blown. I was like, oh, now as I say it, maybe that sounds, I don't know, it sounds obvious. It was not obvious to me. The three moving targets in our business are revenue, COGS, and labor. And our ability or inability to wrangle, to manage those three are what make our business so hard. We have to find a better way to manage those three numbers. If we can, it's basically managing revenue and managing prime cost, because COGS plus labor equals what we call prime cost. If we can wrangle those, we can run a successful, profitable business. And if we don't, if we just try to eyeball it, we just try to guess, try to hit all those three targets at once with three arrows, it's impossible, right? I want to introduce you to something I call the 30-30-20 rule. So what is the 30-30-20 rule? It's a rough rule of thumb that says in the year 2025, and this has changed plenty over the last 100 years, this is how you want to think about your expenses. I want you to think about all of your expenses, right? Everything you spend money on goes into one of three buckets. These are the three buckets. COGS, meaning the product you bring in to turn around and resell. Labor, meaning all the money you spend on your people. And then finally, everything else. EE stands for everything else. If it doesn't go into one of the first two buckets, it goes into the everything else. So rent and electricity and water and your credit card fees and your marketing budget and your bookkeeper, all literally everything else goes into that third bucket. And the rough rule of thumb is 30-30-20. 30% COGS, 30% labor, 20% everything else. If you're doing the math, 30 plus 30 plus 20 equals 80. That leaves 20% left over. The 30-30-20 rule is an easy back of the napkin way of arriving at 20% operating profit. So if you got a restaurant that generates $100,000 a month, if you keep your expenses to $80,000, you make $20,000. Is that easy to do? No, but there's something very simple about this model. This framework, this 30-30-20 principle is so crucial for you to understand. And if you've never heard it in these terms before, I invite you to think about arranging all of your expenses, about arranging your P&L in this way, right? Here's the truth of the matter. You have to reverse engineer profit. I talked about this earlier. You've got to start with the end in mind, right? What do I need to make from this business? I think it's 20%. So if you got a restaurant that generates $100,000, that's $20,000. I think, maybe you disagree with me, I think that's a pretty good living. I think that's a pretty good living for running a restaurant that generates $1 million in revenue. You pay rent, you pay all your distributors, your purveyors, your partners, your employees, you generate money for the state, all of that. I think you deserve $20,000 of that $100,000. Here is the key. This is the whole key to doing it. If you are not forecasting and budgeting, for sure you are not making consistent predictable 20% every single month. This is the heart of the program I run, where we literally show you exactly how to do it. I'm going to give you the quick overview here. You can go figure it out on your own, or we can contact me later and we can talk about how we can help you integrate this in your business. But forecasting and budgeting is the key to running a profitable business, right? So put this through, right? I'm using even numbers. Let's say restaurant XYZ. Look at it, it's beautiful, right? Look at those chairs. Look at the greenery, right? That's restaurant XYZ. Say restaurant XYZ does about $1.2 million per year. That's roughly $100,000 per month in revenue. Obviously, I've chosen nice round numbers, but also 1.2 million happens to be the average restaurant in the United States. So it's actually sort of a good metric for us to use, right? If we are budgeting, right? So if it does $100,000 a month, if we want to keep our COGS to 30%, then our budget is $30,000. If we want to keep our labor to 30%, again, that's labor, all in, salaries, hourly wages, benefits, taxes, payroll fees, all of it, all your people costs are in that number of $30,000. And then everything else, that everything else bucket can't come to any more than $20,000. Now, the reality is it's rarely that simple, right? So your COGS might be at 21.2, your labor might be at 33.5, your everything else might be at 25.3. You do the math, it all still adds up to that $20,000, right? 100,000 minus equals 20%, equals that $20,000, right? So the neat and tidy version of it is 30, 30, 20. In the reality, it looks something like this. The key is you have to figure out what it is for your restaurant. And P.S., it also might change at different points in the year, right? What we want is to even it out and make it as consistent as possible, because, you know, we owe car payments every month. We owe mortgage payment every single month. It doesn't change. You know, the bank doesn't care that we're going through our shoulder season or our low season. Bank gets a consistent amount every single month, which is why I talk about consistent, predictable 20% profit, because I want our take-home pay, our income, to be very consistent. So this is the neat and tidy version of it, 30, 30, 20. This is sort of the fuzzy version of it. This is probably closer to what your restaurant will look like, right? It's not that simple. Understand the two numbers on the left, COGS and labor. COGS plus labor equals something called prime cost. If you've never heard this before, prime cost is the key to you making a good living in your restaurant, managing prime. COGS plus labor can't equal more than 60%. Ideally, you want your prime cost, COGS plus labor, to come to 60% of revenue or less. Somewhere between 55 and 60 is realistic, right? Pizza places might be at 50 or 52. But somewhere between 55 and 60, and I promise you, it is very difficult, almost impossible to make money if those two numbers, COGS plus labor, added together, prime, it's very difficult to make real money, the 20% profit we're talking about, if your prime cost is over 60%. What you want it to be is 55 to 60%. And here you see it's all balanced out because the everything else bucket is a little bit higher. So because everything else is higher, maybe they've got higher rent, maybe they do more in third-party delivery, this fictional restaurant, so they know that they've got to make up for it in other areas, right? It's rarely that simple, but there is something really straightforward about it. Now, here's the key. What you're going to do every single month is forecast, and then you're going to generate budgets. So if I say, hey, my restaurant should do, I'm going to close my eyes, I'm going to look into the future. Forecasting is also known as fortune telling. You're going to sit down and say, how much money do I think I'm going to generate? How much revenue am I going to generate in the month of May, let's say, right? May is coming up. I'm a $1.2 million restaurant. I think it's going to be about $100,000. If I think I'm going to, if I need to hit $100,000, if that's realistic, then I generate my budgets, my 30, 30, 20. Now, what happens is there's two sides to this business, and I have to educate, empower, and encourage my team to do what I need them to do. If I say, hey, my forecast thinks I'm going to do $100,000, and given that my budget is 30, 30, 20, so 30,000, 30,000, 20,000, well, then the first thing you need to do is you got to make sure you hit that $100,000. What you need is a system for setting daily targets or weekly targets, right? We do this in my program. There's like a scoreboard I give. It's a forecasting and budgeting spreadsheet that I started using 18 years ago that my mentor taught me, that I've sort of turned into a document that I give all of my clients. You can build your own, but what you need to do is set targets for yourself. What you need to do is focus on revenue management. See, we talk a lot about costs and the expenses in a given business, but at the end of the day, our expenses are tethered to our revenue. So if we're cutting costs, are we cutting them enough to stay even with our percentages? And in order to do that, we have to hit the revenue number that we've set for ourselves. Revenue management is something that massive public companies do really, really well. So Applebee's and Taco Bell and McDonald's and Hard Rock and you name it, they know what they have to make every single day, and they're really good at hitting those numbers, right? There's no reason why you can't do the same. And what happens is then you use all of the tools available to you, your servers and your menus and your specials and your marketing, to make sure you hit that number. But if you're going to set budgets for yourself, and that's what the 30-30-20 is, it's setting a budget for those 3 areas of your business. Understand that those are percentages of a revenue number. You have to hit that. So what you're going to do is you're going to educate, empower, and encourage your team. Education meaning once you learn how to do this, you're going to tell people exactly what you need them to do, why it's important that they do that, and how they should be doing it to be successful. You then empower them, right? Say, hey, listen, guys, I need us to hit $100,000, and here are my budgets, $30,000, $30,000, and $20,000, right? Just to go back a couple slides, it's those. I need us to hit $100,000 in revenue, and then here are my budgets for the 3 main areas of my P&L, right? What you're going to do is you're going to educate them, tell them what you need them to do, and then you're going to empower them and say, I know you're smart enough to figure out how to do it. I don't know how you're going to put your schedule together, but I know that you can do what I need you to do, right? You are empowering them to make decisions to get you where you need to go. Most independent restaurants falter. They struggle because they're not good at laying out the expectations for their teams, right? I need you to hit $100,000. And there are a lot of tools. I'm going to give you all these tools in order for you to hit that, but you have to hit that number, right? Given that $100,000, here are your budgets. So you have to keep your ordering under $30,000 because I cannot have you go over budget. I had a colleague who was the executive chef at Hard Rock in Times Square here in New York City, and you did not go over budget on your ordering. If you went over budget 2 weeks in a row, you no longer had a job. Same thing with scheduling. If you went over budget on your scheduling 2 weeks in a row, you no longer had a job. They were fanatical about sticking to their budget. You hit your numbers revenue-wise, and you stuck to your budget. You never went over budget. That's what we now have to do. We educate them, right? Tell them what we expect of them, and then empower them, right? I trust you to make really smart decisions in the best interest of this restaurant to keep us under budget and to make sure we've got all our bases covered. It's a process to do those 2 things, but that's what has to happen. And the last part is encouragement. One of the best things you can do is when you take yourself from the operator position to the owner position, right? When you pass all of these tasks off to your team, you then get to fill them up. You then get to provide support for the people on your team who you're empowering to do these things. Say, hey, listen, this is what I need you to do, and I empower you to make decisions to get us there. And at any point, if you need support, if you have questions, if you don't know what to do, I can be that second set of eyes. I am here. So you encourage them to reach out for support. Your job as the owner is no longer to do this, to do all this stuff, to build the schedules and do the ordering and manage the declining budget. That's not your job anymore. Your job is to provide oversight, right, to make sure they don't go over the cliff. And that's what we're doing. What we're doing here, budgets are a guardrail for your business. When you set up this, when you start forecasting and budgeting and you set up these simple systems, when you understand what your 30-30-20 is, what those 3 buckets are, you're setting budgets and you're putting guardrails on the side of the road. So even if somebody hits the guardrail and sort of scratches up the car a little bit, they're not going to fly over the cliff and fall 3,000 feet to their death, right? We educate them, we empower them, and then finally we encourage them to reach out for help, to ask for a second set of eyes, to not always have to carry the burden. And when you're not doing all the work, when you're not so deep in your business, you can then be more helpful as that person who works on the business, right? We talk about that. Oh, we want to work on the business instead of in the business. This is what this means. Now, this page, this screen, these three things, this represents 3 or 4 months of dedicated work. But it's totally possible. You integrate what I'm showing you how to do. You can have a wildly different wildly different restaurant in 3 to 4 months. So this is Katie and Gordon. They run Jam on Hawthorne. This is like an institution out in Portland. I don't know if anybody of you guys know this. They bought this restaurant a couple years back, and they came to me. I was working with them all through 2024. And when they first came to me, there was that January. This was January of 2024. They were 13% under. And slowly, over the course of all those months, I mean, look at that. Just in 5 months, they went from almost minus 13 to plus 14. Right? A massive, massive swing. And just to put this in dollars and cents, when they implemented this stuff, when they started forecasting and budgeting, thinking about their 3 buckets, empowering their team to take control, this was the difference in just 5 months. Question you're naturally going to ask is, well, doesn't revenue go up in those? Not as much as you'd think. March, April, May. March and April are almost identical to what February was. It's a massive, massive swing in profitability. Right, so this is Rusty. Rusty Leary is the guy on the right. He's one of the owners of Mill City Public House, and says here, P3 Mastermind, that's the program I run, right? The system's fundamentally shifted how I lead Mill City Public House. Together with Chip's guidance, we've navigated challenges, capitalized on opportunities. Again, here were their numbers. -3 all the way up to, I swear, plus 27.5%. Just to put this in dollars and cents. Over the course of those months, and now, again, the pushback I always get is, well, revenue must have been so far up. September and October were very busy months for them. So then were November and December. January and February, March are the lowest months in their business. They're in the middle of Wisconsin, right? Appleton, Wisconsin is in the middle of nowhere. It's very cold, the dead of winter, and they had the 3 best months that they've ever had in their business. Again, you look at the percentages and you look at the dollars and cents simply by implementing it. This was the 6 months, 7 months that 6 months we worked together, because they came to us in November. So September and October, and then almost immediately from putting this stuff into practice. So this is Mike and Rachel Voller. It's more than just numbers. It's a complete overhaul of how we manage our business. I love this quote and I love sharing this because that's how I led. That's how I started this whole conversation. It's not just tips and tricks. Oh, shave this, do that, whatever. It's not about, sending people home early. It's not about, shaving hours off here. It's not just about going with like a lesser product to save money on your COGS. It's a complete overhaul. It's a new way of thinking about it. It's putting yourself first. And they had this great business that just wasn't thriving until they came and put all this stuff into practice, right? So Stephanie turned 2 of my restaurants around, made a profit on both of them within 2 months. The interesting thing is she had 3 restaurants. She actually closed that 3rd restaurant because once she learned all this stuff, she realized, she's like, oh, I realize I can't ever make money in this 3rd location because the rent was way too high and other factors were a problem. So she closed one of the restaurants and just focused in on the original 2. This is Danny. Danny is now the CEO of Hustle Hospitality. They've got 4 different concepts, 8 different locations all over St. Louis, right? Big debt of gratitude here. Here's the deal. So if you scan this, if you are interested in learning more about the P3 Mastermind, if you say, hey, this is all great, but I need more help in implementing it, totally fine. Reach out, get in touch. Free 30-minute call. We can talk about the program that I run. We talk about what we do and how we can get you on track. Everybody joins the program for 6 months. Within 6 months, you'll have a wildly different business. You don't need me to do this, but you do need to do this, right? forecasting and budgeting, starting with the end in mind, understanding what you need from your business. Because again, your business is really good at telling you what it needs from you. You just have to be better about telling your business what you deserve out of it. Again, what you do is way too difficult, way too important to not make money doing it. This is how you take the next step. You have to do this. You have to forecast. You have to budget, set targets for yourself, set budgets, hold your team accountable, show them how to do this. You can do that on your own. If you need guidance, if you need more hand holding, that's what a program like mine is all about. That's what we do. So please reach out and get in touch. There's zero pressure. Spend that 30 minutes just getting you set up. I do this because I love Honeycomb Credit. I have sent numerous clients over to Honeycomb. They have been a real lifeline for so many of the members in my P3 mastermind. And I love that they do education like this. The biggest thing I can tell you to do, the biggest thing is to ask more of your business and start with the end in mind. I always talk about rabid dogs. So if you say, hey, my restaurant's going to do $100,000 in revenue this month, I deserve to make $20,000 of it. There's literally a book called Profit First. If you've never read it, it's a worthwhile read. But in that, the author talks about literally like taking your profit and setting it aside, right? Putting it in a corner, putting a bunch of rabid dogs around it and saying, that's my money, right? Because every time you go over budget on cost of goods, every time you go over budget on your schedule and your labor is heavy, nobody paid for that except for you. You're the only person who paid for that. So what you have to do is think about it as your money first. Profit first. What do I need to get out of it? The way you do that is through revenue management, setting targets, goals for yourself every single day. That leads up to a target for the month, the projection for the month. You use that projection to generate your budgets, and you hold your team accountable. Nobody over orders, nobody over schedules. You get eyes on the orders, you get eyes on the schedules before they're posted. If you do that, what you're doing is you're safeguarding your money. And I just think we can be better about this. Big publicly traded companies are really good at doing it, but your business supports your family, your kids, I told you, my small business, same thing. It puts money in my kids' college account, it pays for things like health insurance and our mortgage, right? I'm sure it's the same with you, and you just have to expect more from it. So in any event, I will take this down if you guys are good, and I will answer whatever questions. Last 5 seconds. If you want to scan this, grab time on my calendar for next week. I'm happy to talk through whatever you want to talk through. Again, if you're an independent restaurant, if you're struggling with profitability, if you're not making what you think you should make, there's absolutely an answer. And Honeycomb does an amazing job giving people lifelines, helping them give that working capital to get on top of this stuff. But part of it then also is looking at the operation to make sure that everything is sound so that you can make the money you deserve to make out of it. All right, I'm going to take that down. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Did I stop sharing, or am I still sharing?
You stop sharing.
Excellent.
You are all set. Thank you so much, Chip. I mean, everybody on this call, I think something to note is that Chip really has helped so many restaurateurs that are in the place that you're in today. And if you joined this webinar, I think that says something about you. I think it says that you are committed to, improving your business, improving your restaurant, and making the step to work on your business and not in your business. We have a few questions, Chip. One of them being, what are the most, common traits of new owners that you find to be most successful?
It's a great question. Real quick, somebody said, can we have the QR code? That is the link that the QR code takes you to. So if anybody wants to use it, just use that link. It'll take you right to the scheduling page. Obviously, it takes a certain amount of passion to be in this industry and to be good at this industry. It's the best people, the people who are most successful are the ones who are able to separate that passion from that business side and understand that you may be really passionate about it right now and willing to work for no money or little money, and that you will burn out of that fuel pretty quickly. and understanding also that like profit equals sustainability, meaning
Mm-hmm.
this sustainability of your business. That if you make money doing it, you can open up another one, which means you can support your state, support more landlords, hire more people, feed more people, all of that. It's people who are dedicated to the numbers, who understand that there is a number, that there is math, that there are percentages that lead me to be successful. And if you go into that just focused on the numbers, you will be miles ahead of everybody else. That's what I find is so key. I didn't get into this business. I don't think I have to tell you. I don't think any of us got into this business for the bookkeeping nature of it, or for the or for the accounting practices. Um, Trust me, I was terrible at math when I was growing up, and I killed. I really mean it. I graduated top of my class in business school, and I killed myself to get there because it doesn't come easily. And I say this all the time. Like, my dad is an actuary, meaning he works with numbers all the time. My brother was a math major. They are freaks. I do not understand them. You do not want them explaining this stuff to you, because when it comes naturally to you, you're like, well, you just gotta, blah 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 blah. That was every time I had questions about math, and my dad's like, you just do this. For me, like, you want somebody explaining it to you for whom it doesn't come easy, right? That like, I have to simplify it, I have to dumb it down, I have to compartmentalize. So I come up with frameworks like the 3 buckets, like 30, 30, 20. But thinking about it that simplistically says, okay, well, that bucket's got to be that level, that bucket's got to be that level, and that bucket's got to be that level. It's just somebody who's focused on the numbers. That's the answer to the question.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have another question in the chat. Someone says, do you use the same percent and bucketing in your consulting business?
It's totally different because I don't have labor like you guys have labor, and I don't have cost of goods. I don't have product. Mine is basically like my intellectual property. So my coaching program. So it's totally different. It's why our business is so hard. I'll remind you back to the guy with the 3 moving targets trying to hit them all at once. The specific challenge of the restaurant industry, the specific challenge is that you have most of what you spend your money on are product and people, right? And most of the businesses are not the same. Campbell's Soup is not the same. Campbell's Soup spends a lot of money on supply chain, on marketing, and leadership, and their executive leadership. They do spend money on labor. They do spend money on their product, but it's not the biggest buckets. For us, our biggest buckets are COGS and labor, and we have to manage it proportionally. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear from your perspective, Chip. Like, what do you think is the biggest mistake for someone who is trying to transition into focusing a lot more on increasing their profit margins? What's the biggest mistake that you see restaurateurs make when trying to improve their profitability?
It's so great. It's a great question. We are not cutting costs. We are managing our expenses. So what happens is, like I said in the beginning, what I think a lot of operators do is I need to make as much money as possible. I need to get in as many covers and really push check average and just make as much as possible. And then I need to keep my expenses as low as possible. So you're like cutting and shaving and this. That's the wrong way to do it, because it feels like you're always on that hamster wheel. The difference is not cost cutting, but managing your expenses. Right? Saying, if I'm going to do $100,000 in revenue, bucket number 1 needs to be at 30%, bucket number 2 needs to be at 30%, bucket number 3 needs to be at 20%. That leaves 20% left over, and that's mine. So then how do I manage the expenses? And there's a lot that we do then, right? There's a lot that you will do to get there, but understanding that the percent, it's all a percentage game. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest difference, right? And getting people out of that place, right? Getting people out of that place from cost cutting to managing.
Excellent. And then we had someone write in earlier today about how you would advise folks that own small businesses to be thinking about potentially protecting their business in the state with potentially tariffs, anything that you're seeing, or tips and tricks that could potentially help fellow entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's funny because we've had this really difficult labor market, and now it's softening. We've had inflation, right? Cost of goods are through the roof. Now these tariffs, they may or may not. I mean, I've got, anybody with an Italian restaurant with an Italian wine list, they're on pins and needles because nobody drinks Cali Cab with an Italian meal. They drink Barolo, they drink Super Tuscans, they drink Chianti. It just draws more attention to the things that we already have to do, right? So if you're going to be affected by tariffs, if you're starting to bring in wine, if you bring in Italian wine, for example, I would start diversifying that list, right? I would find producers that are creating, Italian varietals in California or Italian varietals in Washington, for example. I would start diversifying that list in that way. If there's specific products that are coming in, you just have to start planning, right? So it's sourcing new ingredients. Are there similar prosciuttos being made here in the States? Is there burrata or mozzarella being made here in the United States? Are there, good Roma tomatoes? That I just think of the Italian restaurants because they're all really afraid right now. It's just you utilizing all the tools available to you. It's going to your partners, your distributors, getting out ahead of this. Don't be surprised when it happens. Again, it's that same thing. It's those buckets. And at the end of the day, if things cost more money, we have to be willing to pass those costs along to the consumer. That's what your supermarket does. That's what Apple does. That's what Nike does. They just pass it along to you. And we can't be afraid to do it.
Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you so much. And thank you, Chip, for joining us today. I feel like I learned a ton. If you weren't able to stay for the full session, no worries. We're going to be sending a recording later, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Chip, any final words?
No. Ro asked if there was a pug snoring in the background, and it's my English bulldog. She spent a week at the kennel, and if anybody has a dog, for us, our dog, every time she comes back from the kennel, she sleeps hard for like 4 days. So she is like snoring in the background, and I'm so sorry if that was distracting or upsetting to anybody. She's really cute. I wish I could turn my camera to show you because she is like out. I really am sorry if that was disrupting. I apologize for running late because we couldn't get in the room. And I'm sorry if that was distracting, but I couldn't wake her up because she's so cute right now. The last words of wisdom are just to think really deeply about how much revenue you need to generate, how you can be profitable. This is the last thing, right? I'm the guy who says revenue does not necessarily cure all sins. Just making more and more money and more money and more money, but like, oh, my labor is really heavy, but if I make more money, it'll make my labor make sense. We're just that's not the world right now, right? The economy is soft. This recession's coming. People are holding onto their money. So if the only way for you to make money is make $140,000 a month and you're only making $100,000, I don't think you're going to increase your revenue by 40%. I think you should get really good at figuring out how you can be profitable here, because a $100,000 restaurant that generates $20,000 a month, again, let's use real numbers. Like that's a real number. That's a real amount of money that I think provides a really good living in most places in this country. That's what I want. If you got a $2 million restaurant, all power. $3 million restaurant, power to you. But there's a way to be profitable where you're at. Managing those expenses, not cutting costs, but managing those expenses in relation to revenue will change your business overnight. It will let you sleep easier, breathe easier, I promise.
Amazing piece of advice from Chip. Thank you so much. You should see a link to schedule a call with Chip in the bottom left corner of your screen. Please be sure to check out, he has an amazing podcast. I've learned a ton from it. Check out his website, chipclose.com, and stay tuned for the recording.
And if you want a really good episode to start with, if anybody doesn't listen to the Restaurant Strategy podcast, just go straight to episode 331. Episode 331 is my interview with a guy named Kevin Bain. If for anybody who doesn't know it, he's one of the co-CEOs of Boca Restaurant Group in Chicago. They're huge. They have dozens of restaurants, and he basically backs up exactly what we talked about today, and he gives such transparency. So if you want to hear how like somebody at a very high level thinks about it and implements it, he basically is talking about the 3 buckets. He's basically talking about the 30-30-20 rule. So like, you don't have to take my word from it. Take the word of somebody who's way more successful than me, way smarter than me, like, and apply that. And if he says it in a different way that helps you apply this differently or better, like, all the power to you. Like, but this is the recipe for running a successful restaurant that will provide for your life. Episode 331.
Amazing. I am going to put that on the stage right now. It says 3. There we go. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thank you again, Chip, and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Bye.